Now, if you live in Florida, you might have heard of Butler Beach, but did you know that the man who started all of this, he was one of Florida's first black successful businessmen? Yeah, but look, don't worry, I did some digging. Let's get into it. Now, we might have all heard of Abraham Lincoln Lewis and D.A. Dorsey, but I want to introduce you to Frank. All right, this is Frank Butler. Now, Frank, he was born in Georgia, all right, 1885. He had a really, really good upbringing. Matter of fact, his mom owned a restaurant. And this restaurant that she ran, it basically only catered to like the construction workers while they were working on the railroad. Now, his father was a very successful fisherman. Matter of fact, the boat that he ran caught a lot of the fish for the town. And they taught him good values, real good. Now, when Frank turned 17, all right, he was already married, okay? He already jumped the broom. But he couldn't find work. He was trying to start a family, so he was like, look, I might have to move. And he did. And when he moved to Lincolnville, Florida. Now, when he got to Lincolnville, okay, he got a job at a market. It was just him, the owner, and another guy. But the owner wanted to move, so he left Lincolnville and actually moved somewhere in the St. Augustine area. But Frank went with him, so he could stay working with him. So when Frank got here, though, gotta put this in here, okay? Should have said this before, but I'm saying it now. His wife was sick, back in Georgia, so she didn't come with him to Lincolnville. And about a year later, after him moving here, she passes away. But shortly after they made the move, he says, look, I gotta do my own thing, all right? And that's exactly what he do, because he buys a little space and he opens up his own market on Washington Street. Now, Frank's market was a little bit different than everybody else's market, all right? First off, he had a little bit of everything. You could get groceries, produce, and he also was a butcher now. But for the most part, the main reason why he wanted to open up this, market was to sell to black people. Now, the thing about Frank is, okay, Frank's a good guy, all right? So not only did he have black customers, but he also had white customers. It really didn't matter. Frank was a really good guy, and people loved him. Now, Frank is really doing good for himself, all right? He's making good money. He's the guy, all right? Everybody likes him. But he buys him a house. But not only do he buy a house, he buys an apartment, all right? And he rents it out. And this apartment is also on Washington Street. So, around 1915, you would think Frank is, pretty set at what he's doing in life. No, he's not. He's trying to invest in more properties. And that's exactly what he do. Frank ends up buying a little bit of land, all right? And this land that he buys, he has this great idea to start his own, subdivision. One guy. Well, it wasn't one guy. Matter of fact, this time, they had a law in the place. Say, look, okay? Don't sell no land to nobody who black, all right? And remember what I said, Frank had a lot of white friends, all right? And his white friends, they came through for him. So Frank, all right, and a few of his buddies, one of them was black, two of them was white. They said, look, the only way we're gonna be able to pull this off, all right, is that we're involved. And look, we ain't trying to take nothing from you. We're gonna split this thing 50-50, 50-50. And that's exactly what they did. So they started building homes, and a bunch of homes. Matter of fact, this subdivision was the #1 subdivision in town. But things were going just too good, all right, for Frank and his friends. And the thing about it is they started getting a little, drawback. They're like, look, who's buying all these? Who building the house? Who's really the investor here, all right? Because the other guys, they had money too. They all had money. But the problem is that they didn't want Frank and his other buddy to be involved in it because they were black. So what the other two white buddies started doing, okay? Shout out to these guys because they was road dogs. So what they did was they would go down to the city where you got to do the permits and all that stuff, all right? They went to a guy that they knew, which was a buddy of Frank's too. And they said, look, we're going to handle this. We're going to go back door with this, but we're going to get this done. So the dude that worked down at the city, he started giving Frank them hints on cheap properties and letting them get it in on it early so they could get it cheap and before anybody else get it. Now, Frank and them hit the jackpot, all right? Remember Buddy down at the city, okay, helping him with the land and stuff. He says, look, man, I got this piece of land, all right? Right this beachside, okay, coastline. You should grab it while you can. Now, Frank thought this was perfect, all right? He was already envisioning like this, black resort, black beach type deal. And the thing about it is that no matter how much money Frank had, okay, St. Johns County, they wasn't with it. They was like, no, it say in the law, we can't sell, land to any African Americans. And the thing about it is that they were strong on that. But once again, his buddies come through and they get the deal done. Now, for years, this beach was jumping, all right? And not just with black people, all right? White people too, because like I said, Frank was a good guy. People loved Frank. Frank had the community, all right? And when he built this beach, it just gave, everybody somewhere to go. If you was near the beach, you could come here. Also, the land that's back from the beach, you know what I mean? That land that you have right before you get to the coastline, that was a state park. And you could it looks different now, but ain't really nothing going on here but a pavilion. But it was a state park. So not only was the beach here, there was all kind of stuff here, all right? They had hotels, they had shopping, he had a casino, he had everything. Frank built a whole community. And the reason why he did it is because the commissioner at the time was like, why are you going so hard, all right? He's because I just want black people to have the same, amenities as white people. Now, Jim Crow laws, they didn't end till 1965, all right? And as that date got a little bit closer, things got a little bit harder for Frank and his friends. So around 1947, they end up rezoning the area where he owns all of his land. They rezone it. And about a year later, 1948, they kind of piece it up for plots. And a lot of black people still stayed in the area of his land. And what they did was they named all the streets after all his family members. Also, they named a lot of stuff in the area after bruh. You know what I'm saying? So if it got Butler on it and you in the St. Augustine area, that's from Frank. You got to thank Frank. Also, they named a few parks after him, but not only in Florida. There's a few things named after him up where he's from in his hometown in Georgia. But there's also something else about Frank that I didn't talk about. So later on in life, all right, Frank becomes a politician. And the reason is because they gave him so much static when it came down to developing and buying land and buying properties and, being a landlord. You know what I mean? So he said, I needed to make a change. So the only way that I could make a change was I got to do it from the inside. I got to do something where, I could control things. And that's exactly what he did, because he became the head of a bunch of organizations that dealt right with the community. Now, real quick before I get out of here, I want to run down all of, Frank's accomplishments, all right? So he had the market store, all right? He was also a realtor. This is him inside of his real estate business. He also was a philanthropist. That means you got money. But on top of that, he did insurance. He had an insurance company. Back then, when you had an insurance company, that automatically made you a millionaire. Off rip. Also, if you were struggling, all right, in these times, especially during the 20s and the 30s, Frank, he literally would help you out. If you was in one of his homes and the government wasn't helping you out, he'll pay your rent up to 6 months, white or black. Didn't matter. Now look, I don't know what y'all gonna do to remember this. Like it, comment, share it. I don't know. But the more you know, next month, okay, Black History Month, y'all know these stories gonna be good. Yeah. Peace.